I watched Jozef Chen's podcasts, studied his instructionals, listened carefully to how he explains training, and went through his competition footage because I wanted to understand how someone with so little time in Jiu-Jitsu could suddenly begin beating grapplers who had spent most of their lives reaching the elite level. And what I found was not one secret technique or some talent nobody else can copy, because Jozef simply developed a better way of learning that allowed him to extract more improvement from every hour on the mat. Most grapplers believe progress is mainly about volume, so they assume the person who trains the most rounds and watches the most instructionals will eventually become the best. But two athletes can train for the same number of years and receive completely different results when one is repeating familiar decisions while the other is constantly exposing the exact problems that still need to be solved. Jozef was thinking about learning itself while he was still an orange belt, because instead of only collecting techniques, he studied strategy, books about skill development, competitive video games, and ideas from outside Jiu-Jitsu, then brought those ideas into training to see whether they could help him understand positions faster. The most important distinction he makes is between growth and performance, because most grapplers accidentally mix these two forms of training together and end up doing neither one properly. Growth training is where Jozef experiments with unfamiliar positions, questions, automatic habits, changes details, and accepts that he may lose, because the purpose is not to prove that his current game works, but to discover what is still missing from it. Performance training begins after the discovery has already been made, because now the goal is to make the best decisions faster and more instinctive until the technique can survive the speed, fatigue, aggression, and pressure of competition without requiring conscious thought. Most people attempt a new move during a hard round, fail once, become frustrated, and immediately return to their strongest attack, which protects their confidence but also guarantees that their weakest positions remain almost exactly the same. Jozef understands that temporarily performing worse can be part of becoming much better, so when competition is far away, he explores new positions and tests ideas that may initially fail, while as an important event approaches, he narrows the game, increases the pressure, and turns the best discoveries into reactions he can trust without hesitation. This is one reason his rise looked so sudden, because everyone saw the finished performance when he started beating elite opponents, while almost nobody saw the months where he was taking positions apart, failing with different variations, and slowly building the understanding that later looked like natural talent. Jozef also understands that once a movement becomes automatic, it can become difficult to improve, because you can repeat the same habit for years without noticing the details that are limiting it. So he takes familiar techniques and makes them conscious again by examining the timing, weight distribution, order of movements, and the reactions each detail creates. Instead of constantly adding more moves, he can take one position, break it into smaller problems, change one detail, and rebuild it into something more adaptable, which creates a cycle where the skill becomes conscious, so it can be improved, then becomes unconscious again, so it can be performed under pressure. This depth is also visible in Jozef Chen's instructionals, because he is not only demonstrating final techniques, he is explaining the reactions and decisions that connect the entire position, and I will link his best Fanatics instructionals in the description and pinned comment, so you can see him demonstrate these ideas directly. Another major reason is that he does not treat failure as proof that an idea is useless, because a failed technique against intelligent resistance can reveal the missing grip, the wrong angle, the late timing, or the reaction that was misunderstood. Most grapplers protect their weaknesses by returning to their strengths whenever something becomes difficult, so they can complete hundreds of rounds without spending meaningful time in the positions that actually limit their development. Jozef is willing to invest in failure, but the important part is that he does not fail randomly, because he follows the failure with reflection, adjustment, and another opportunity to test the same problem. Because instead of waiting for a specific position to appear once during a long open round, he creates positional rounds that force the same decision to appear repeatedly. When studying guard passing, he can separate the process into engaging the guard, creating an angle, passing the legs, maintaining the advantage while frames remain, and finally completing control, which means every phase can be trained as its own problem. If the goal is creating an angle, the round resets as soon as the angle is achieved, while if the goal is maintaining the passing advantage, the round begins after the legs have already been beaten, but while the defender still has frames and opportunities to recover. This creates a shorter feedback loop because Jozef can experience the same reaction many times, change one detail, and immediately see whether the adjustment improved the result, while someone relying only on open rolling might encounter that position once every few sessions. The round also changes, depending on whether he is training for growth or performance, because a growth round can include resistance while leaving enough time to explore, while a performance round can add urgency, scoring, fatigue, or a limited clock, so the same skill must survive competition pressure. This is the difference between training hard and training deliberately, because exhaustion can make a session feel productive without proving that anything was solved, while a carefully designed round can expose the same important weakness 20 times in only a few minutes. Jozef also studies outside Jiu-Jitsu because strategy, pattern recognition, learning, and performance under pressure are not unique to grappling. So books, competitive games, wrestling, and other disciplines can offer ideas that someone studying only traditional Jiu-Jitsu may never encounter. For deeper breakdowns and training guides that turn ideas like this into practical ways of organizing your own development, my Patreon is linked in the description and pinned comment. The real reason Jozef Chen became so good so quickly is not that he discovered a shortcut around difficult training, but that he built a process that made more of his difficult training useful, where curiosity creates new ideas, positional rounds test them, failure exposes their weaknesses, deeper study refines them, and performance training turns the final result into something he can trust without thinking. The frightening part about Jozef is not only how quickly he reached the elite level, but that the same learning process is still running, which means while everyone else is studying the version they just watched compete, he may already be building the version they will not be ready for next.